Welcome back to Unleashing. I want to address some stuff in this video. This isn't the way that I originally had this video planned, but with current events, the way everything is, I absolutely have to address this. I've talked about this plenty of times before. There's a few other Christians out there that bring it up, but it is so prevalent now in today's society that, I absolutely have to talk about it because it's a damnable offense, and you don't want to be making this mistake. So I'm going to do what I usually do, draw the extreme, and then from there, we're going to walk it back to where these invisible lines are that you can cross and find yourself in hell or left behind, all right? Okay, let's jump right into it. If you pray to a grapefruit and you call it Jesus, is it going to save you? Or can you call on that when you're standing before God and you're about to be tossed into hell? The answer is obviously absolutely not. Okay, the grapefruit isn't real. It's not Jesus or anything else, all right? That would be an extreme situation here. Obviously, it's completely fake, and that's not going to save you. Only Jesus Christ is, all right? So what happens if you're now, let's step it back a little bit. That's obviously a line you can't cross. What happens if it's a man that you're praying to and you're calling it Jesus, no longer a grapefruit, and it's not Jesus? Is that still the same line? All right, quick answer, yes, it sure is. If it's not actually Jesus, you are crossing a line and you're now praying to somebody else who's not going to save you when you're standing before God, nor are they going to forgive you of your sins, all right? All right, these are examples of invisible lines that you can be tricked into throughout religions. And if you cross these lines, which Satan and his goon squad know very well, all right, then you can step over into you're not making it at all right? Now, I want to differentiate this between sin and something completely different, all right? What we're talking about and what we're going to be talking about is something completely different. This is something that has to do with actually you're not making it, you're in a completely different religion, and you're not saved by God at all. Whereas sin, me included, and everybody else, we will have it in our lives until we are gone. We are constantly trying to clean ourselves up and be more Christ-like, and we repent from that all the way through our life, always staying humble to it and understanding the grace that we get through Jesus Christ, but always being grateful for it and repenting of it, all right? Just like I pray every single day, God, let me be counted worthy to escape the tribulation, and I ask for forgiveness of my sins, and I name the ones off, and I'm always working on it. Just like I had the conversation on the beach May 13th in 2021, where he straight up told me, he's like, everybody's at a different level right now. The difference is those that are trying. If you're in the fight and you're making a difference wherever you are, whether you started or you're further on down the path, just like the treadmill analogy, you're still walking, all right? Doesn't matter if you just started walking on the treadmill or if you've been doing it for 60 years. You still have the same warnings if you start to stop walking. They're up, beep, beep, you're about to fall off. It's getting worse, come back to me right now, boom, you fall off. No matter what, you have to keep walking. Now, you can run if you want, you can get a higher score, you can get a faster time, all right? But no matter what, who's ever in the race, they have to continue the walk, all right? This is your Christian walk normality, all right? This is what you do. Now, to step out of this would be getting to once saved, always saved, and now you're not repenting at all right? Then the warning beeps are going to go off. Hey, you're not doing it right, you're about to fall off, come back, until finally you say, no, I don't want to, and then you do fall off, right? That's different, all right? But there's warnings and things like that. The actual Christian walk, you're forgiven of sins as long as you're repenting and stuff like that. Stepping out of that into what we're talking about is another type of attack that is even more prevalent, it seems like, and this is your false teachings and things that have nothing to do with God, and no matter how much you believe in them or what you're praying to, you're not getting saved at all because you're in a completely different religion or aspect, or you're in a heresy that's damnable, and it won't be allowed to go in. And that's what we're going to be addressing right now, all right? So this is going to piss off a lot of people, and that's just fine with me because, maybe it'll get through to a couple, but we got to address it, so we're going to jump right into it, all right? Mormons, okay? Let me just say this. What's the one way to know you're in a cult, all right? This is one of the fastest ways to find out. Either one, you hate the Jews. Two, you've replaced the Jews. Or three, you think you are the Jews, okay? If you're in a situation like that and you're not actually Jewish, you're most likely 10,000% in a cult, okay? So I'm going to name off some of these religions that are doing just that. I'm going to show you the consequences, and I'm going to point it out, all right? Very first one, Mormons, all right? Mormons think they have a descent, a line, a heritage stemming straight from the Jews, and that they're part of it. They're part of that lineage, all right? They've done all the tests on it. Okay, they've checked the blood analogy and everything like that from thousands and thousands of them. There's absolutely zero connection at all. It's all made up, of course, and that's just getting started with Mormons. We're not even getting into that. That's something completely different. Next thing that we have, all right, so they think that they're the Jews, okay? Next thing that we have would be your Seventh-day Adventists, okay? What have they done? Through apology wide and stuff like that, they've replaced the Jews in the Bible, thinking now the Christian church basically is the Jews. The Seventh-day Adventists are keeping the seventh day, whatever, on the seventh day, Saturday or whatever, are actually the real deal, and they're now the Jews. What happens when you do that? Now that you're the real Jews, like I've said before, the threads of deceit, you fall into a category where you're falling into false gospel. It's like pulling a thread. There's going to be a consequence on the other end. What's the consequence on the other end? If they're now replacing the Jews, then everything Revelation says that they go through in the tribulation, you now are believing you're going through. So what's the consequence right there? They believe in a post-tribulation rapture. And like I've said before, many times you'll find that the very beliefs of these religions are their consequences being played out as the religion. Now that they've replaced the Jews, think they're building it off of work salvation, right? This is actually doing, actually following along with the old Jewish covenants and what they had to do before Jesus came and you were saved by grace. Right? Now they're actually working towards that, and they're building their relationship with God off of that. So now they're stepping out into what they're actually doing instead of doing that as a merit where it's like a good thing to do, all right? And there's rewards for it. Now they're actually leveraging that, and that's why they're saved, all right? Something completely different, and it's wrong. What's the consequence, all right? Because they're falling into this, they're going right into the tribulation like they believe. But it's not because that's how it is. It's because they're actually in a false religion on this stuff, okay? All right? What's the next one? Jehovah's Witnesses, all right? What have they done? They think they're the 144,000. Yet again, now they think they're the Jews, okay? 144,000 are going to make it, and the rest of their stuff is just totally whack. So yet again, they've done the same thing, all right? What's the next one? Okay, this one's big. I'm going to address this on several different parts here, and this one's just out of control, and it's ridiculous, but whatever. The Black Hebrew movement, okay? This one bothers me big time. It's so full of racism, it's just absolutely unbelievable, all right? But the Black Hebrew movement is the idea that the blacks, all right, this has been coming around for a while, and it's only getting worse and worse, is that the blacks are actually the Jews. The Jews up there, just like the flat earthers and everybody else, think they're from Kazakhstan and some other crap. They're imposters. They're imposters, all right? And that the blacks got screwed out of it, and they're actually the real Jews, and Jesus was black, okay? All right? This is so whack that it's absolutely unbelievable, and the Bible points this out in multiple different ways here, and I'm going to read it to you right now on a couple of these, okay? First off, the line of Jesus you follow in the Bible, whether it's Matthew or the other parts where it's mentioning the lineages of the people going back, and it goes back to Shem. For people that don't know, before the flood, it was some sort of hodgepodge. Like when you had kids, it didn't mean that they were going to be one color or the other like it is now. It was different, all right? The word Ham itself literally means burnt, sunburnt, dark, all right? Shem was your Middle Eastern, and Japheth was your white, and they all spread to different locations, okay? And this is where you have your color differentiation after the flood, and from that point on, it's where we get our colors from all over the planet, and from migration and then crossbreeding and stuff like that takes place. But before that, all right, this is where it all started. It was right there at that point, okay? So okay, Jeremiah 13:23, all right? And speaking here, I'm going to jump into 22, just so we're just one verse ahead of it. And if thou say to thine heart, wherefore come these things upon me? For the greatness of thy iniquity, or thy skirts discovered, and thy heels made bare. Jeremiah is scolding Israel and stuff like that. Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. All right? Right here is one of the times where Ethiopia is mentioned, and it's speaking of the skin color. Why? Because it's completely different of the person speaking, Jeremiah, which is a Jew, all right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be using this reference. Using Ethiopia, knowing that they're all black down there and how dark it is, just like when Moses married the Ethiopian woman, all right, and she was black, and there was a problem with it with the wife and some other stuff, all right? this is the exact same thing. There's a differentiation taking place right here, and it's pointed out. If they were actually the blacks, this would not be happening at all right? So it literally is pointing to that very fact. All right, then in Psalms, let's go back here. Okay, he sent Moses. Okay, we're in Psalms 105. I'm going to start with 26 here, verse 26. He sent Moses his servant and Aaron whom he had chosen, and they showed his signs among them and wonders in the land of Ham. Okay, the land of Ham, yet again being differentiated from the land of Shem, where Canaan is, and the Jews and everything else where they're going to be at, right? Why? Because Ham was the dark one, the very point that it's a different land all to begin with, all right? And they're down there showing the wonders in there. And if they were actually black, it would not be the land of Ham, okay? There's a differentiation that's taking place right here, okay? And it happens all over, and it's as easy. All right, and these are just a couple spots, but it's literally as easy as reading the Bible. And in these places, it will follow the lineage back, which goes back from Jesus to Shem. He was not black at all. He was Middle Eastern, okay? And the people that have seen Jesus, met him in heaven, know this for a fact as well, okay? All this Black Hebrew movement, it's nothing but more racism, all right? Which leads to the next point. Now, I'm going to go to Psalm 68, okay? Psalm 68:4. Sing unto God, sing praises to his name, extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Jah or Yah, and rejoice before him, okay? All over the place, I keep seeing people in comments and they're saying, Yah, Yah, Yah for God. I'm like, dude, what is up with this? And where is it coming from? Why not you use his name, Yahweh, or whatever else? What's this, like, slang thing? And yesterday, I finally put it together, all right? And it's literally coming from the Black Hebrew movement, all right? And the whole point is it's racist. It has nothing to do with that. Can that be used as an abbreviation? Yeah, sure. But here's the problem. After looking it up, you realize that the word Yah would be mentioned about 47 other times in the Bible. King James kept it out. And the reason why the scholars that were in there and they kept it out was that a lot of times the word Yah would be used as like an abbreviation, they thought, or for poetic tense purposes, all right? Where the rest of the time, just like the Jews, they felt it was too holy to use his name, so they'd have abbreviations and stuff like that. The King James scholars, they changed it to the Lord in all those other places. But knowing the poeticness of sometimes it being referenced that way, they kept it that way in Psalm 68:4, all right? And that's why they say Yah. The reason the Black Hebrew movement uses it is because they're racist against the King James Bible, all right? They have been the whole time. That white man, those white guys, they can't make this. They can't, they're stealing away from our heritage, all right? So they're following other transcripts which have Yah in there, and that's why they say that. So people that are copying that or going along with it or writing in the comment section, you've been talking to those movements and you don't know it, and that's where that's where that crap is stemming from, right? It's not coming from something good or them trying to keep the scriptures intact. It's coming from a line of racism against basically the white man, and the whole thing is like it's jacked up because it's more entitlement. Like, it's not enough with all the crap that you've seen going on and what Barack Obama helped push across America and everything else. Now they want to actually be the Jews as well, all right? Because that's not enough. They feel entitled. They got screwed out of that too, and they haven't. They just have never been a part of that, all right? And, you know, you've heard it plenty of times from other people speaking. Most of the racism that stemmed originally from that was black on black, all right? They were slave trading themselves, all right? And it's ridiculous to think they got screwed out of it, all right? And like, literally, but this is where it stems from. And yet again, here in another situation, they think they're the Jews. So just like these other religions, they're falling into the exact same category, all right? It's completely ridiculous. Like I say, you know, you're in a cult. If you think you're the Jews, you hate the Jews, or you replace the Jews, all right? So what's the next one? Nazi Christians, all right? This sounds like an oxymoron because they are oxymorons, all right? It's absolutely ridiculous. Last year, I ran into this chick online, all right, that I was speaking to, and she seemed cool at first, all right? Like, she had her stuff together. She's a Christian and everything like that, but she wanted to know my testimony. So I started talking to her, and one of the nights when I was talking to her on the phone, I was telling her about some of the stuff, and I got to the point, about the flat Earth and the threads of deceit that are involved with the Rob Skiba connection and the anti-Semitism and stuff that came with that. She started getting kind of quiet, all right? And then she said, that she ended up believing it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, you believe in flat Earth? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, oh no. And then just about as fast as that happened, boom, the explosion came. They're not actually the Jews. They're from Kazakhstan. They're down there. They stole the whole thing, blah, 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 going off. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, dude, unfreaking believable. And, if you were to call them Nazi Christians or Nazis, they would deny it, of course, in a heartbeat. And yet, if you ask the question, who exactly are you attacking over there? Stop right there and answer the question. Are these the exact same people, whatever you're calling them, all right, that Hitler was attacking? Yeah. Yeah, exactly, okay? All right, just leave it at that for a second. What have you done? Well, now they're not the Jews or the Kazakhstan, so it's okay to hate them, right? Right? As a Christian, it's okay to be completely racist against somebody? Obviously not, right? No, it's not. So to make yourself feel okay about the situation, you've changed them from being the Jews into fake Jews, and now you can hate them, when really it's all the same thing. You're just trying to find a green light to hate the same exact people, all right? When this comes down to it, all right, I've said this before, just like solving math or equations in algebra, all right, you can look and solve your own problems, all right? If these people were fake that were in there, the Jews, right now, if they were actually fake, would they be allowed to be there in the first place according to God's word? Absolutely not. He said that it would always be their land. Nobody else would have it. Nobody sneaking in. So let's say these guys actually did sneak in and God's word's not true in that situation. What's some other ways we can look at it? When the Jews first showed up in 1948, the place was a dump. It was completely deserted out. There was no trees or anything growing at all. What do we have now? Culture, some of the best produce ever, freaking trees growing all over the place, and the whole thing revitalized, right? Would God be allowing that to happen, who's sovereign and in charge of everything, if these were fake imposters that have snuck in there, stealing it away from his chosen people? The answer is no. Let's take it a step further and go up to the 6-Day War. Would Israel be defended in the 6-Day War, where if you look into the history of his miracle after miracle, 6 guys show up in a tank, army of Jordanians of 50,000 throw up their arms, and they give up because they see an army with the 6 guys in Israel, and they're like, why did you throw down your weapons? You had us outnumbered tons to 1, right? And we saw an army with you. Miracle after miracle after miracle of God's intervention showing up, blinding the enemy, saving Israel, and then winning the war in 6 days, all right, and taking everything back. Would this be happening if the Jews over there were fake? The answer is no. This is your equation. This is looking at the answer to solve the problem if you're jacked up, all right? It answers the question for you. Obviously, they're not fake because the miracles that are happening are only God miracles, and the divination that's taking place from that is only from God, that he would only do for the promise of the actual Jews, proving that that's who they are, whether you can figure out or not, whether they've done the DNA testing, which now they haven't, it points to yes, they're actually all. So what does this come down? Hatred and straight up Nazism, okay? It's completely ridiculous, okay? And that's another one. And this is a real thing, all right? Christians are out there that literally hate them to death. They want them to die, and they're calling themselves Christians, thinking they're tight with God, that they're going to go up to heaven surrounded by Jews, and Jesus being a lineage of Jews, and that everything's okay, right? What are they going to do? Start hating on God in heaven? Give me a break, all right? These are lines that are crossed, that are damnable, and you're not going anywhere, all right, at all. You're not even in the Christian religion anymore. You're gone. You've been washed away. You're done with, all right? It's ridiculous to even have to address this, but this is real. This is real stuff, all right? So let's continue. What's the next one? Christian replacement theology. This comes right out of the Christian church, all right? tons and tons of Christian churches have completely replaced the Jews from the Bible, and they believe the Christian church now is the Jews. What does this stem into? Threads of deceit. All right. Now that you're reading that you're the Jews, you think that everything that happens to the Jews in Revelation is now happening to the Christian church. This is going to create mid-trib rapture ideas, post-trib rapture ideas. This is going to create consequences as they're actually beliefs. All right. Consequences and beliefs being stemmed out. Right. The same thing that I've said multiple times before. And it's the same nonsense, replacing the Jews. God has not done away with them or anything of the sort. All right. Why is this so dangerous? Let's go to Romans 11. Okay. Mentioned Romans 11 plenty of times, right? The whole chapter. But I'm going to read just a few parts of it. Romans 11, we're going to start with verse 16. For if the first fruits be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and with them partakers of the roots of the fatness of the olive tree, boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but root thee. Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off, that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, speaking of the Jews, and thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. For if God spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of God on them that which fell, severity, but toward thee goodness, if thou continue in his goodness. Otherwise thou also shall be cut off. All right? Warning, don't get into this stuff. Don't start being racist. Don't hating the Jews, or you're going to screw up big time. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. All right? This is a warning from Paul. Don't be high-minded, and don't start hating on the Jews, thinking now that you're a Christian or you're saved by Jesus that the Jews are completely done with. There's a warning there, all right? Once you fall into this is an invisible line that you can cross that Satan knows about, where now you're stepping into something that has nothing to do with Christianity or the walk with God at all. It's straight up racism, okay? You're not going to make it to heaven if you're a racist. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't even know how people can be. I've had friends of every single color, whether it's through the military, school, college, work, all over the place. There's never a problem. There's good and bad of everybody. I don't understand how it can be so prevalent in the world, but it is. It's there. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I am white, all right? Jesus was from the line of Shem. He's Jewish. And then there's black people down in Africa or whatever else. We've all spread all over the place now, all right? And it doesn't change the fact that Jesus still came to the line of the Jews and he was Jewish. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not trying to say that he's white or being jealous of it at all. I'm grateful just to be in the family. So why do other people have a problem with this? It's absolutely ridiculous. They want to have control over it. They want to be racist in it. It just blows my mind how dumb it is. And yet this is a line that Satan can get you to cross, and next thing you know, you're screwed, all right? I just heard the health ranger speaking a couple weeks ago. I just shut it off. It was so terrible, calling for the absolute destruction of all the Jews and to kill every single one of them. This is the health ranger, same one that speaks with Alex Jones. Has been on multiple times. Seemed like he had his head on. And no Steve Quayle, all right? Absolutely anti-Semitic, falling for the gutter crap coming from over there, that they're going in there and they're doing genocide and stuff like this in Gaza, right? Which Stephen Ben-Noon just loves to push, all right? Stephen Ben-Noon, listening to him talk about the Jews is like other countries trying to find out what's going on in America, and the only channel they can get is CNN, all right? It's all left-wing, complete lies and propaganda. The guy pushes so much hate against his own country, it's unbelievable. I can't stand listening to his crap. And even though I've heard some of his stuff before that's okay, most of the time he's just attacking his fellow man over there, and it's absolutely ridiculous, all right? It pisses me off. But because of this stuff that happens, people can quickly fall into hating on them, all right? I've warned it before in another video, all right, talking about the 13 or 14 families of the Illuminati. Two of them being the Rothschilds and the I can't think of the other family right now. Rothschilds, all right? I think. Anyways, two of these families, all right, within the Illuminati, whether you know it or not, all right, when they give themselves over to sin and stuff like that, just like in concerts and things like that, when somebody gets initiated in the Illuminati, they have to do an act of embarrassment, all right? They basically humble themselves. They fall down. They do something else, all right? It's like they're part of their allegiance to Satan to be a part of it, all right? Well, in the families, they all have done these same sort of things too, but here's where the trick comes in. They made the Jews, all right, in the families, take the blame for all the financial stuff that's taking place. All right, this is a twofold attack. Actually, it's a threefold attack. Okay, and Satan knows this, and he's using it. All right, so they say, the other families, well, this was your law. This is what you have to do as part of your embarrassment act. All right, you have to take the blame for all the financial stuff going on in the world and things like that. Right. So now you've got people all over the world hating on Jews, saying that all the financial and the sneaky stuff going on is coming from the Jews. Right. How is this a twofold attack? Now, all the other families that are doing even more worse stuff, using them as a front, are clean and not being noticed as much as the Jews. Two, now that people are hating on the Jews and being completely anti-Semitic, you're a racist piece of crap that is going to find himself in hell, right? All right, there's the second part. And then the third part is from one of the girls that got out, Swally. I've talked about her before. She knew inside the Illuminati, after she escaped and she was bringing forth the information, she straight up said, we have a guy that's going to go in, the Jews are going to have a temple sometime in the future, but they think, the ones that are involved with us, that they're part of the group. They're not. It doesn't matter how deep they are or anything like that. Just because they're Jew, we plan on betraying them in the future, which is what's going to happen. We know it's going to happen in the second half of the tribulation, all right? So they're falling for it. So this is another front attack where they're used as a scapegoat, being allowed to look at it. Even inside the Illuminati, they're going to be betrayed. And I won't tell you that those people aren't going to hell that are part of this, right? There's good and bad all over the place. But the point is, if you jump on that bandwagon and start hating on them because of it, you're falling right into a satanic plan that's going to get you absolutely damned, all right? The whole Rob Skibbett thing with the flat earth movement, I've talked about it before. When God told me they're under a curse, I'm like, what? The flat earth's under a curse? So I went back and found Rob Skibbett, because a couple years before that, I saw in the spirit, there was clouds behind each one of their heads, but there was a big one around that guy. So I went back to Rob Skibbett, and what did I find? He's teaching his whole Christian congregations all over the place to be anti-Semitic, hate the Jews, they're all evil and everything like that. I'm like, oh no, which is false doctrine, all right? It's what's going to get him screwed up. So what happens? Guys like this are quickly dealt with. The very first snap of COVID, all right? I had COVID in July 2020. It lasted a weekend. It was a mild fever, and then it was done, and I haven't been sick about anything since, right? Because it's a complete joke, all right? Rob Skibbett gets in and dies instantly, all right? Why? Because he's been preaching false gospel, leading millions and millions astray, and it only is allowed to go for so long, all right? Just like Kim Clement, all right? As soon as I saw Kim Clement, I'm like, the guy's got a demon in him, and he's doing these Trump prophecies and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? As soon as he died, a couple weeks later after I said that, I ended up watching an interview with a guy who was talking to Kim Clement, and Kim Clement had came to him and was apologizing, trying to ask God for forgiveness, because he had bought inside information to play out with his congregation that he was prophesizing, right? Mormons do the same thing. When I was talking to him up in 2015 at a company that I worked for, Les Schwab, they were talking about their ultimate prophet that they have, who ranks among the highest in the Mormon church. And after he started telling me, I'm like, that's your prophet? That's your highest guy? The reason he's a prophet is he worked for the Bush administration, and he was their intel advisor. He was coming out of there and giving advice to the Mormon church from inside information. In case anybody doesn't know, that's not being a prophet. Being a prophet is actually hearing from God and bringing information, whether it's the future or whatever else, forward, all right, by other means that are not natural, okay? Having inside information isn't being a prophet, okay? Kim Clement was doing the same thing on a lot of his stuff, all right? And it was whack, and he got taken out, all right? Or Tony Palmer, going back to Kenneth Copeland Church when he was trying to bring the churches together and everything like that. Same exact thing, all right? What happened to him? Boom, motorcycle accident 3 weeks later. After I'm like, dude, the guy's got a demon. He's totally preaching false gospel. Unbelievable, right? These are things that you absolutely have to watch out for, all right? And these are just a few examples, okay? Okay, so now that I've mentioned some of these different cults, right? Let's just call it what it is. All right, let's go to Revelation 13:9, okay? See here how we address this situation. All right, because I know how the cults address it. Completely backwards. All right. Behold, verse 9, Revelation 3. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. All right? This is a consequence coming straight from Jesus, all right? These people out there that are claiming to be Jews, stealing the birthright of the Jews, replacement theology, anti-Semitism, Black Hebrew movements, Jehovah Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists, all right? They're all doing this stuff, all right? Their consequences being laid out right here when Jesus is actually speaking to the real church that isn't doing this, and he says, behold, I will make of them the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not. Exactly what all these different cults are doing, right? But do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. All right? That's exactly what's going to happen. All right? So then Jesus differentiates between those guys that he's judging, all these different cults that are saying they're Jews and they're not, and then he's speaking back to the same people that he's referencing at the first part of the next verse, which is Revelation 3:10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon the world, and try all them that dwell on the earth. What is he speaking of? The tribulation. But he differentiates them right there, which means we now have a separation between the people he's talking to that are doing good, that he's going to bring the false ones to worship at their feet, and then he's also going to save them from the tribulation. What does that mean? It means all of them that are claiming to be Jews and are not, the synagogue of Satan, aka all these cults, are going to be left behind. All right? Do you understand now why this is so important and why it's not okay to be hating on the Jews or being anti-Semitic and thinking, oh, it'll be okay, it'll all work itself out, I'm going in the rapture, everything's hunky-dory? You're not going anywhere. You're going to be left behind, or worse, you're going to be tossed into hell, all right, if you don't straighten it up after you get left behind. All right, that's the dangers. This is not a sin situation. This is a completely other circumstance. All right, this is where you're crossing over lines that you can't have anything to do with as a Christian. You can't be a Nazi or anti-Semitic, hating the Jews or anything like that. You're supposed to be praying for them, all right? And you can't be in any false religion where you're praying to a God that isn't actually Jesus, but you're labeling him as that. All right, it's the same sort of mistake. Those are mistakes that if you're making and doing willfully, even after you hear it and you're still doing it, those are things that are going to completely keep you out of heaven. All right, and that's why it's so dangerous. All right, this video absolutely has to be said. There are so many of them out there, and if you fall into one of these categories, secretly, if you find yourself in one of these categories, you're hating right now. You're just hating, just furious. How dare you say this? How dare you tell me to repent or not to hate the Jews, all right? You're in deep, deep trouble right now, okay? And you don't even know how bad that it is. But if you don't fix it, all right, if you don't repent of this and get out of that right now, you're going to find yourself in a hellish situation, like quite literally, all right? And this is a warning that I wanted to give. This video wasn't originally supposed to go this way. I was going to talk on the Jews, all right? And I'm just going to throw this in there right now, all right? Their heritage that they get is far, far, far more than what Gaza and them taking that right now, which is theirs anyways, along with Golan Heights, all right? How big it is actually kind of unknown right now. What they're promised in Genesis 15:18 is that they would have from the Nile River all the way to the Euphrates, all right? Now, is that in a straight line, or is it something more? There's different speculation on this, and we don't quite know. For those of you who think you do know and can lock it down, the answer is you don't, because we don't know what the earth is going to look like after the tribulation's over. After all the mountains are flat and stuff like that, literally the Red Sea might be zipped back up. The course of the rivers might be different, all right? There's different things that can happen, so we don't know the exact look of what it is. But I definitely think that it has something to do with where Abraham originally started, his traveling that he took, all right, kind of outlines it, up the Euphrates, and then cutting across, coming down into where he was, then everything that happened in Egypt, and then coming back from Egypt back into there. Very well could be a part of all of Saudi Arabia, or at least a huge major portion of it, okay? And I was going to do it on this video, but the truth is that and I've been working on this for about a year and a half, and the truth is I can't actually do the video. And the reason why is because there's unknown factors that I actually can't talk about because it hasn't been revealed yet to the planet. I just happened to stumble upon it about a year and a half ago, and I've wanted to talk about it ever since. And the reason why I keep hitting stumbling blocks is because I can't. All right? But to break it down, the future Israel spoken of in Ezekiel and what it looks like in the actual promised land when they get it to completion, have it from that point forward, starting from the 1,000-year reign and on, all right, is the very land segments they get and the colors that they have from the different tribes coming from their flags and stuff is an exact cross-reference from the future to the past of what Joseph's colored jacket looked like, all right? And I thought that was very cool. When his dad, Isaac, gives Joseph the jacket, the colored jacket, all right, and he's having these dreams, he's going to rule his brothers, everybody's going to bow down to him and all this other stuff. The significance goes far, far, far further into the future from Egypt, into the very end when they get the completed promised land and not even knowing it while his dad's poo-pooing it. The very jacket that he made him was the segments of their land property that they get, that Ezekiel sees, and the colors of it and the differentiate. I think it's extremely cool. All right. Now, I can't prove what those colors are, and none of us know what his jacket looked like. But I do know, have a really good speculation, that when the land is finally segmented in the 1,000-year reign and they get their land and what it looks like, that those colors that match up are actually the same colors that were on his jacket and he doesn't know it. And this is going to be one of those poetic things that we only find out in heaven, where the future is giving credit to the past and the past to the future at the same time, all right? Forward and back and forward, all right? That's something only God can do. It's going to be one of those poetic things where you're like, holy mackerel, that's amazing, all right? I just happen to kind of statically stumble into the middle of it and think it's incredible, but I can't tell you exactly what the colors are of his jacket because I don't know what they're going to be in the future exactly. What I did in the picture right here is I kind of referenced the color of stones that they had from their birthrights, and which was on the breastplate, and I kind of put that into the different things, all right? And their land segments go from the Mediterranean and the Nile River and stuff like that to go to the Euphrates and across as far as they can. I kind of made a little idea, a rough estimate there on what it looks like between different speculations that people have had and scholars and stuff like that. Give the example, but the land segments and the different colors from the tribes are actually go all the way back to when he first got his jacket, and I thought that was very cool. What Israel is actually going to get, it's if people right now that are hating on the Jews for them cleaning Hamas out of Gaza knew, they'd be up in a tizzy, all right? And the funny thing is like, would you be saying anything when Jesus does come back and he says, all right, everybody out, this is the Jews' land, no more messing around, they're actually getting it right now? Nobody's going to say jack. I'm like, yeah, no problem, God, moving out right now so I don't get vaporized, all right? Nobody's going to be arguing about the situation at all. They're going to get it totally, what was promised to them, and it's going to be totally awesome, all right? And that is what I've been wanting to share for a very long time, all right? And it's going to be very cool to find out how close reference it was with this jacket, because I think his jacket was basically like a land map of the future that he got to wear as a robe. And even they, when they made it, didn't know what they were doing. It was only something that God knew, put inside Isaac's mind when he was making the jacket, and it's kind of like an inside hint to it. And it's poetic in only a way that God can do. I think it's very awesome. I've never heard anybody talk about it before, but I wanted to bring it out. Like I said, I statically stumbled into it. I think God showed me it, and I actually can't complete the video. And why it's been such a frustration, like I say, is because I don't know what the colors exactly are. It's only a guess estimate, but I do have a feeling that I can't prove that they're going to line up identically with his jacket and the colors that they get when the land's given there. And that map that I have is what Israel looks like in the future in Ezekiel. That's what the land split into. Unlike the one that they got when they first moved into Canaan, it's in its final form. It goes in horizontal lines across, so it's very interesting. So anyways, but I wanted to share that because I thought it was really cool. And speaking of the Jews right now and the whole thing, it seems like, I guess, the right time to put it in there. But how do you look at the Jews? Man, I've said it before. We're adopted in. They're the original family, and even though they've messed up, they're going to come around full circle. We're to pray for them. All right, they're brothers, and to celebrate the day when they do come around full circle, because it's going to be awesome. And God used them to bring His Son into the world. All right, and that's how we look at it. So, be humble about the whole thing. Don't try to steal what's theirs or change it up, because you'll find yourself in a worse situation. All right, and Satan will use that. It's one of the lines you just don't cross. All right, I really hope this sheds some light on some stuff and wake some people up, because if you fall in this, you could be falling yourself right into the tribulation, or worse, you could be falling right into hell. So pay attention, don't do it, and don't fall for these traps. All right, these are cults, and they're bad news. All right, God bless. I'll catch you next time on the Elite. See you in the air. Bye.